Greetings and welcome back to Drew's office. Excel pivot table basics is the key to unlocking data mastery. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by spreadsheets or data analysis, you're in the right place. Before we create the pivot table, we need to prepare the spreadsheet for analysis. Where possible, we should fill in any missing data, make sure that our column headings are unambiguous. This is especially true when we start to pivot the table. Assuming that the product ID should be unique, we can check for duplicates in that column. Click on Conditional Formatting, highlight Cell Rules, and check for duplicate values. Now, if we were to leave this row in the dataset, the pivot table would count the same entry twice, thus leaving us with inaccurate results. Let's delete this row. The other thing to consider before we pivot is, do we want to sort our table by a particular column first? Let's do a custom sort by category, then by product name. We want to quickly analyze the sales data by category and revenue. Click anywhere inside the table. On the Insert tab, click on Pivot Table. We'll insert the pivot table on this worksheet inside this cell here. So this area here is where the pivot table results will appear. To begin with, it's like a blank canvas. The pivot table fields is where we can drag and drop fields from the data set to define how we want to analyze the data. For example, if we want to see the total revenue by category, drag the category field to the rows area and the revenue field to the values area. Excel will automatically sum up the revenue for each category. And if we wanted to see the prices per category, we can simply tick the price field. We can change the order of the fields by moving them up or down. We can drag the price field as a row. And this is what we mean by pivoting your table. Although we can see how each category is performing in terms of sales revenue, it might be useful to have the product name next to the price. Change the field order. Maybe we'll drag the price field back to the values area. And the values box means Excel will try to perform a calculation. We might also prefer to have the category as a filter, which means we can now pivot the table by individual categories. We can pivot the table again to look at multiple categories. Now, suppose we filter to show all the categories, but really we're interested in the products that have sold the most units. We could drag the units sold as an additional filter, and then perhaps we just want to look at products that have sold 100 units or more. In addition, we only want to see products that generated more than 2,000 in revenue. So even though the revenue field is already being calculated as a value, we can also drag the revenue field as a filter. Filter to show everything above 2,000. Having pivoted our way to glory, we've decided that a pivot chart is the best way to represent these sales figures. We can start by clearing these filters. and we don't actually need them for our chart, we can remove the price field and the product name. And we want our chart to show the number of units sold, along with the revenue for each category. So we'll have the category as a row, and because we want the pivot table to calculate the number of units, we need to drag it as a value. We'll close the fields panel for now. And on the pivot table tab, we want to insert a pivot chart that is tied to the data in this pivot table. We'll choose a pie chart. If the values change in the original data, we'll need to refresh the pivot table. This will in turn refresh the pivot chart.